2 minutes 17 seconds for that video. Princess Pee Pee, and it really is a princess. That's Pee Pee. Now I noticed I dumped a bunch of stuff along the road like this over at our house, down in the weeds where everybody else was dumping their stuff. They did the same thing over here. Dumped a bunch of stuff over here. That's not too bad. I acclimate well to the heat. It's almost too hot. Pick up rocks. I don't even have the keys in my pocket. Hey girl, is that a rock in your pocket? Are you happy to see me? This is what I was looking for. Like this. Colorful. Okay, let's go. Looking for a river. Okay, well, I guess I'll go back. About a quarter of a mile. This pants has a zipper in the back. Put car keys in it. Where it won't fall out. I just found it today. After 4 or 5 times, I had my pants on. It's pretty funny.
What rules do I have to follow? No more homework, no more chores. As an adult, it doesn't make sense. But
So
that
do you
was
think
my
that
logic.
I'm about ready to get into my account?
When
Looks
the
like it, huh?
Beneath the clouds, I remember looking
Looks like they're
at the
acknowledging
city
the
and
account.
just having this incredible sense of, wow, this industry. I've been reading novels for years, and suddenly I thought, okay, I have a life worthy of a novel.
He lands in Vancouver.
I'm gonna write some novels too.
and looking for him.
This kid's dad's turned out
He
to
was
be a
standing
bank
by the
robber. I've heard the
window,
story before.
His dad turned out to
just
be a bank
looking at the
robber?
runway.
Yeah. That's why
He had
mom
new
left, because
sneakers
he was
on, he had
robbing
new
banks.
jeans on, he had a new leather jacket on.
Took the kids.
And that's what my first impression
Came down to America.
how much that I was. His father, who'd always been a giant in my imagination. He looks a little insecure, and he's wearing all this new clothes, like he really wants to go. And then he came over and he shook my hand, and it was a little awkward. Like, I don't really know what to do in that moment. The other thing that surprised me was that in person, more so than over the phone, he had much more of an accent. He had a very strong French-Canadian accent. I was caught off guard, and it's a funny thing to think about when you're this meeting you've been waiting for 5 years, and you're sitting there kind of going, how is it possible that I didn't know my father had this really strong accent? And I remember really thinking to myself,
Especially talking to him on the phone every week.
I don't know where he came from. I don't know that much about him.
Denny and his dad went to lunch where Denny wasted no time asking his dad about what he wanted to hear.
I want to know about your past. I want to know about the things you've done. And he was saying, what things? What stuff? And I finally said the crimes. And he got upset and said, I don't know why she told you about this. He was really angry that my mother had told us about this. But I saw him change before my eyes.
Secret life
He
of dad.
went from this guy who looked hurt and uncertain to somebody who looked incredibly confident and powerful and fearless. And his whole expression and body changed. He says, the biggest bank job I ever did was the big one. He left a truck in the alleyway of a bank, knew all the police to be watching the president. That night, he backed the box truck up to the bathroom and go to the bank. I was entranced, I think. He got $500,000. That's what he told me. This was the crime for which he was eventually caught, for which he did serve time. And now that he was admitting the truth to me, he and I were probably going to do some really...
Hi, hey, is that Sounder and Lassie?
There was going to be some adventure.
Sounder and Lassie, right?
Denny's dad
Remember those
lived
movies?
in a house surrounded by trees, overgrown hedges, and
He's
six
over there
German
smiling,
shepherds.
she's over there laughing.
His
He's
father
all,
let him
what?
sleep in
Yeah,
the
I do
basement
remember those
on a
movies.
dusty couch, underneath some cobwebs and above some peeling linoleum. And Denny had
Did you hear
nothing
that
to do
giggle?
but wait for the adventure.
She was so
One morning, he got me up really early, and he said, I need your help. We can go. The whole time, I'm kind of thinking to myself, we're going to do something really cool. And we drove to one of his stores, which was in a public market. And he was a fishmonger. And we get there, and he's showing me his displays and his fish. And he had all these crates of salmon that were visibly covered with tumors. Either heads had tumors, or tails had tumors. And he explained to me that farm-raised salmon get fed experimental foods to see if they grow faster or if it makes the meat have a nicer, more appealing color. He had found somebody who was supposed to dispose of batches of farm-raised salmon that went bad. The food they'd given them caused them to have tumors. And he would buy this for next to nothing. And then he put these in boxes and dressed them up really nice and took them out and sold them to restaurants. We spent the next few hours filleting all of the salmon and removing the tumors. We had to run our thumbs over the pieces of meat to check for tumors. And I remember we had this entire bag, this garbage bag full of tumors at the end of this. And I remember just thinking, like, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really gross and really unethical. He made a lot of money off that because these restaurants trusted him to be someone who brought them good quality fish.
Denny started running some pretty shady errands for his dad. One time, he was sent out alone to pick up a shipment of salmon.
I'm waiting on a gravel road at night, buying illegal salmon. This is a really, really bad job, and this is not what I signed on for. I signed on for robbing banks in California. This is not my fantasy.
Denny tried keeping his head up because, after all, the more time he spent with his
I wanna
dad,
rob banks,
the
not
more he
fucking
could
sell
hear his
shitty
dad's
salmon.
stories.
I was sort of trying to merge my life into his life. He would have meetings around Vancouver, and he would say, come with me. We would drive and we'd talk, he'd tell me his stories. As he began saying, you want to hear about my crimes? You want to know about this? I said, yeah, I really want to know about this. So, this is amazing. Tell me more about this. The whole time I'm kind of thinking to myself, well, this is going to get better. And then he'd park, and he'd be inside, and I would read in the car. And when he came out, he would look at these novels and go, why do you read this stupid stuff? This is a waste of your time. Why are you doing this? And he'd just look at me, and it wasn't like he was
Should be
looking
reading
at me
about robbing banks
with me. It was just kind of like he was measuring me and
They sell like
evaluating
fishy
me.
salmon.
And I remember thinking, okay, that's a really scary look. I don't know what that means. And I would try to look at him as if I wasn't afraid of him. Like I slump back a little bit and then maybe, lower my head a little bit and stare at him.
Things weren't getting better between Denis and his dad, and Vancouver only got colder and lonelier.
I didn't have a single friend my age. I remember one night getting an old phone book from under the kitchen sink. It had been under the kitchen sink for so long that it had adhered to the floor underneath. And I tore the book off.
Well, it's not going to hit 100. It's not going to tell us how hot it really is out here.
Before
99.
we left.
It's over 100. I'm getting hot.
He grabs the house phone, dials the number, and she picks up.
She's asking about like.
It is at least 105.
No way.
That's why I'm not going to school right now. She said, what are you doing with the work with my father? And she just kind of said, wow.
Says 100.
Really hard. Have they? Like, I didn't know that. Like, I remember really thinking I didn't know that. And really realizing, God, I sound bad. I sound really, really bad. Like, as far as she could see, I was lost. I had no future. I have to do something. I have to do something. I have to fight to get my life out of this because I want to be like my father. I want to go nowhere. I want to get out of here. And I couldn't call my mother and tell her what was happening because I was so proud. I couldn't tell her I'd been wrong. I couldn't tell her that she had been completely right.
Well, maybe his mom wants him to do that.
Now,
Wow, look
I
at that
thought I
sleep.
hated school, but actually, there was a lot
That's
of
more than
in
stuff I
school
got
that
the other
kind
day.
of missed all of a sudden, talking to friends and talking about what we're reading and writing stories.
As soon as Denny realized he wanted to go back to school, he told his dad.
You're a man now. You don't need to go to school. And I say to him, I want to go to school. And he says, well, if you want to go to school, you can do it on your own. I'm not paying for you to go to school. Because I didn't need school, and you've been this selfish kid who really hasn't done anything good for me in my life. You didn't send me many letters when you were in the United States. I don't need to support some selfish kid. So you can go to school on your own. I really, at this point, was hating my father. I thought, wow, he's a loser.
It was becoming impossible for Denny to hide this growing disdain he had for his own dad.
And one day, he says something along the lines of, you think you're tough. You really think you're tough, don't you? Okay, well, if you're tough, you're going to do a job for me. You're going to do something for me. Let's go. And we get in the truck. It's raining, and the rain's freezing. We pull up to this house, and he takes a baseball bat out from behind the seat that had a lead core. He hands me the baseball bat, and he says, I want you to go get some money for me. This guy owes me money. But I wasn't particularly violent kid ever. I didn't like violence. I wasn't very good at fighting, honestly. I tried to learn how to fight, and I was pretty bad.
That's
Denny
fucked
takes the
up.
bat.
No, he never a fighter either.
Do that
And
to
so I
your
get in the
kid.
truck, and he drives away. The rain is freezing in my hair. The icicles forming in my hair. And I'm thinking, there's no way I'm going to hit him with that. I'm just never going to do that. It's not going to happen. Like, maybe something's going to happen, and I can just stand with the bat at the door, and the guy will give me the money, and I'll be okay. I'm walking to the door. I knock on the door, and I'm thinking, something's going to happen here to make this okay. And this girl answers. I don't want to scare her. I actually kind of like keep the baseball bat in a position next to my leg where like maybe you're not going to see it too clearly. I'm feeling really bad about the situation. I asked for her boyfriend. I said, is he here? And she said no. And I said, well, I have to get some money. She didn't have any expression on her face. She could have been terrified. I have no idea what she was feeling. And she said, he's not here. And she closed the door. I walk around the house now thinking, like, am I going to break a window? Am I going to kick in a door? Like, what would my father do? Like, what would he do? I knocked again, and she opened again. And I remember thinking, well, I could kick the door and break the chain. I'm going to, like, hurt her and scare her, and she probably doesn't even have the money. I told her I needed the money again, and she said that she didn't have it, and her boyfriend wasn't there, and she closed the door. And I went and stood by the road, like, waiting for my father to come back.
Denis didn't know what to expect from his dad when the truck pulled back up. Maybe he'd get angry or chide him for being a coward. But when the door opened, Denis' dad just said nothing.
He didn't even ask for the money. He knew I wasn't going to have the money.
As they drove home, in silence, in the freezing rain, Denis made up his mind right then and there.
At this point, I knew I wasn't a badass. I went back to Vancouver wanting freedom. I thought my father was going to be the person who helped me get that freedom. No. I came out with this determination, like, I'm going to have my life.
Like
I'm not going to have my father's life. I don't want his life. I don't want his problems. I don't want to be him. I want to be a writer. I want to have my life.
And Denis made good on his word. Within a few months, he had moved out and went back to high school. 2 years later, completed high school and college.
I went to university, doing everything I could to make money, to survive. One time I was asked to babysit some kids, and I was alone with them, and there was a field next to the house, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun if they rode in the hood of my car while I drove them around the field? So I did that. They had a really good time. They were hanging on the hood of the car, and I turned the windshield wipers. They couldn't grab the windshield, made it harder and more adventurous, and turned the windshield spray. And when the parents got home, they said, Mom, Dad, like, Denis drove us around the field on the hood of his car. And the parents just were so angry at me. I really didn't understand. I was just like, why are you so upset? Like, this is what you do with kids. Like, you play games. Yes, it's normal. Like, that's the kind of normal I grew up with. Thank you, Denny, for sharing your story. While Denny Prashad might not have lived a life right out of the books, he did end up following that childhood dream. Denny is now a full-time award-winning author, and you can read more about his childhood in his memoir, Cures for Hunger. He's currently at work on his new book. Get links to that and more at snapjudgment.org. Original score for that piece by Renzo Gorio. It was produced by David Exame. Snap return. More pots of gold to track down. Chasing the rainbow. Stay tuned.
Crazy road we drove. Colorado Public Radio.
This is a crazy road we
Here
got
for
stuck
you
on.
because of donors who support this
We've been driving
community
through the
resource.
trees.
Thanks to Kevin and Kristen Letty for your philanthropy. Learn about giving at cpr.org.
Radio helps you
This
stay
is where they find the secret
entertained
Indian
and
tribe that's been out
connected,
here
and so
for
does your smart
100,000 years.
speaker.
Nobody's seen it
Because your
before.
smart speaker is also a radio. Just ask
Could
your
be
smart
tents, there's
speaker
gonna
to
be
play
people, there's
CPR
gonna be
news
parties.
and never miss a minute.
And I'm gonna get out the door. They're gonna go, Sarah,
Leaves with a
we
vein
know
of
you.
real gold.
Welcome home.
Meant to commemorate the
Charles says
Colorado
hi.
Gold Rush. Its floors are built from white blue marble, stiff rock.
The
And
tribe
all through
says,
the building,
welcome home.
You'll see walls covered
No.
in a beautiful
Sorry.
pinkish stone with dramatic reddish
to
brown
Craig.
swirls and veins. That's Beulah red marble.
You.
Discovered west of
What?
Pueblo in the late 1800s,
Potty spot.
technically, Beulah red is limestone that gets its blush from iron oxide. It lines the
We're not
Capitol's
the only stupid
hallway,
ones.
arches over doorways, and holds up the columns in the rotunda. It's also
Turn
never been
around.
found anywhere else, and almost the entire known supply of
Turn around
Beulah
right here,
red
too.
was used up, except
You
for
go
a few
further.
houses in
Huh?
Beulah,
You can go
some
further.
fireplaces in Pueblo, and some
Find a better
blocks
turn
held
around
in
spot,
reserve
please.
for the Capitol. So far, unneeded.
A Colorado postcard from CPR, supported by National Jewish
Might
Health.
find a river down here. There it opens up a little bit. Might have bounded home.
Alright.
Welcome back to Snap Judgment, the Chasing the Rainbow episode. Now, our next story is from one of my dear friends who knows exactly what his pot of gold is. The story was performed at Snap Judgment Live in San Francisco, and again, we saved you. the very best seat in the house. Snap Judgment, live.
Yeah.
Our next storyteller was with us from day one, Mr. Josh Healy.
How do you enjoy life as the world burns?
Turn it off because it
When the
got
planet
too
is on fire, and the country is falling apart, and the cops shoot another teenager,